Universal mechanics define fighting games. They facilitate some of the most memorable moments our genre has ever seen, and they make it so you can bring an AI player into the match who then immediately supers and loses you the round. Their importance cannot be overstated, and their ability to be so diverse between games is one of the reasons we play so many different fighting games. For me, there is one mechanic that stood out immediately after first use, and my love for it only deepened as my experience with the game grew. Today, I'm going to be talking about Burst.
Oh, off the self-destruct.
No, they scrambling. They scrambling. Oh, base the burst again.
Soul, even in
Your soul. Come on, bro. Lost Savage.
Now, Burst exists in a lot of different forms across a lot of different games, but I'll be specifically focusing on Guilty Gear Xrd. A lot of this will apply to the other games, but Xrd is the game I have put the most hours into. For those who are unfamiliar with the mechanic, let me quickly break down its anatomy. Burst is a predominantly defensive mechanic done by hitting two buttons, heavy slash and dust. When done, it sends the opponent full screen and resets the game back to neutral. The move is strike invulnerable, so during startup and active frames you cannot be hit. You have access to this ability when your gauge, conveniently labelled Burst, is filled up. Once you've used it, over time it will fill back up, and that's its limiting factor. What makes this interesting, however, is the states in which you can use it. You can do it while you're blocking, and most importantly, you can do it while you're being hit. This move is the ultimate get off me. Stuck in corner pressure, get off me. Got hit by something random, get off me. Whenever the game or player causes you frustration, you get a second chance at life. This is frankly amazing by itself. There are so many instances where you'll be playing and you'll just get annoyed by something, especially as a new player, and you get to express that. It goes much deeper though. When you start learning the game, suddenly there's a lot more to consider. Maybe you're going to use it early in a round to get it back quicker, or maybe save it for when you get hit by a big counter hit that could do half health damage. You could use it to retain corner positioning when they are trying to fight their way out. The possibilities are endless. What begins as a way to vent frustration evolves into this incredibly versatile game of risk-reward. And speaking of risk, there is a lot. As the aggressor, Burst can seem annoying. You earned your hit, why don't you get your combo? But that's where burst baits come in. Even though bursts are strike invulnerable, they're not safe on block, and this is where the mind games start. If you think the opponent is going to burst, you can stop your string and block. This can come through a multitude of methods. Simply using a move with little recovery, jump cancelling and button and air blocking, or RCing something. It's simple in execution, but technical in theory. How can you bait something that can come out at any point? Well, you simply get the feel for it. When you watch people play, you'll slowly start to notice patterns. Those reasons I stated early on why you might want to burst become the most obvious points to do it. Why shouldn't you burst when someone jumped in for the 7th time, even though you anti-aired them 6 times before this? Well, they might just be ready for that burst, and if they are, you're in for a world of hurt. This simple idea turns moments in Guilty Gear that have no right to be interesting into some of the most exciting interactions possible. Get your opponent down to those last 2 hits of life, land that one hit, but do you cancel it into the next button? Or do you give up the combo to potentially bait the burst? What if you choose the latter and not only does the opponent not burst, but they instead jump and air throw you? The feeling you get from baiting a burst is absolutely unreal, and the feeling you get from faking a burst is just as good. What goes from being the most open-ended mechanic possible becomes the scariest thing to do, because you don't want to let the opponent into your brain. There's also things like burst safe or burst unsafe combos, but I think that's a little bit too much information. However, there is one thing I've been omitting that I do want to cover, and it's the presence of gold bursts. Gold burst is technically the same as a normal burst, done with the same inputs and the same meter. But not only is it strike invincible on startup and active frames, it's strike invincible on recovery. It's safe on block and on whiff. Not only this, but if it does hit, you get a full gauge of super meter, which is huge. What limits Gold Burst is when you can use it. You can only ever do it in 2 situations. in neutral, which is incredibly difficult, or as a wake up or reversal, which is very obvious. Gold burst, similar to a regular burst, is strike invincible, but it's not throw invincible. It is possible to air throw it, and boy, if you've ever seen someone do it in a match, you'll know what sort of reaction it gets.
Last chance. Oh, yeah. Fucking Aaron.
Success. He's gonna hold it. He's holding it. Jackal feeling himself. He's got to do so. Oh my God! Holy! And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Your winner for Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2 goes to Nymphy.
This is because of how rare gold bursts are. More often than not, it's far wiser to use a regular burst for all the reasons I've stated previously. So having a read on an opponent that is going to do something super uncommon and then to punish it in a very specific way is awesome. Bursts to me are a perfect example of a simple to understand mechanic that just immediately umbrellas out into this sprawling mass of mind games. It begins as this cathartic expression of frustration and evolves from that point onward. I can see why people might feel that not getting a reward for a hit all the time is annoying, but trust me when I say, as soon as you land your first burst bait, suddenly you'll be making videos on learning Guilty Gear with your good friends, and then you'll invite too many people into your house to play. Yeah, this is my favourite mechanic, and I just don't see that changing anytime soon.